The spirit of healthy debate. I think we've all heard that phrase or that set of phrases or something similar to it. And we've heard it so much that it has become an ingrained part of how we see and perceive the world. It's one of the many foundational pillars of Western liberalism that I think needs to be destroyed completely because it is so completely corrupt. Is debate healthy? Boomer cons love to say things like, I vehemently disagree with what you're saying, but I'll die for your right to say it in the spirit of open discourse or open debate. First of all, the people who say things like that are so devoid of conviction about anything that I do not believe they would ever die for any higher principle whatsoever. So it's impotent and pathetic just to even say that right off the bat. But is it an ideal? Is this a virtuous end? Is this a goal to be sought? A spirit of debate. I mean, some of this maybe we get from reading Plato and the way that we're taught to perceive how Socrates saw the world. There are benefits to it. It may be that debate can contribute to an understanding of truth that is deeper. It certainly is the case that the audience of a debate has the potential to learn from it. But is it really healthy? Or is debate actually a symptom of a diseased culture in which talking and going around in circles is celebrated as some virtuous thing while action is demonized? I think that debate, I mean, what do you mean by debate? This is what it comes down to, because, communication with an opponent is useful up to the point that you fully understand your opponent's perspective. Oftentimes people don't understand their opponent's perspective. So insofar as that's the case and they're interested in understanding, which is often not the case, then it may be useful. But if I fully understand and we've gone back and forth and I know where my opponent is coming from, what use is there in debate? Why would I pursue that? And also, so many of the things that are debated now are things that, quite frankly, I find to be offensive, that you would even think it is reasonable to debate that subject in the first place. My rights are not up for debate. The existence of my people is not a subject of discussion. For another party to come to me and suggest that we should debate whether or not my people should continue to exist is a declaration of war. That is an offense of violence. But I don't want to get too hung up on one of these side trails here. My point here today is actually addressing the fundament of this actual question of what it means to debate and whether even that is a good thing. And I have not thought about this thoroughly. I'm asking the question sincerely as much as I am trying to answer it. I'm not claiming to have any final solutions or final answers on this. I'm thinking out loud here, but it strikes me that every time I hear somebody say something to the effect of, well, we need more open conversation. We need to get back to civil debate. You may disagree and you may feel this way and I feel the opposite way and we couldn't be more different, but ultimately as long as we can have a conversation, it's fucking absurd. As long as we can have a conversation and a civil debate about it, then we'll be okay. No, we won't. One side wants the other side dead. And you're talking about we're going to be okay as long as we can go back to civil debate? No, there's no debate. There's a time for debate and it is very limited. And that time, when it comes to, I think, American politics has long since passed. Whenever I hear someone say these things, like, oh, we just need to keep the spirit of good debate alive. My intuition when I hear those people say that is consistently of the sense that these people are not speaking in good faith, or that these people are not genuine. These people do not have interests that are aligned with mine. Their interests are in appearing a certain way or gaining status through the system that celebrates that liberal perspective on things. The liberal system elevates, exalts nonviolence as a moral good for civilians. And of course, violence on the part of the state is okay when it serves the interest of those in power, but you always hear people say violence is not the answer. Civil debate is the answer. Let's discuss this. I mean, this is how you keep your fucking boot on somebody's neck. If somebody's boot is on your neck, or if they are plotting to kill your family, do you accept from them civil debate? Is violence really never the answer? And so really it comes down to the people who understand what time it is and those who don't. The people who understand that that is the situation that we're in, and the ones who still are sort of oblivious and think that I'm exaggerating when I say that people want to see blood. It's not my goal for right now in this soundbite to convince those people. But again, debate and discussion have their use, but their use is very limited in scope. And it is so easy to cross that threshold of where it is still useful and just keep on talking. I don't think discussion is virtuous. I think talk is a great way to muddy the waters. I think action is inherently incisive. Action is undeniable. Boots on the ground, hands on, will against reality. Action, manifesting in physical reality, your will. That is incisive, and in that has the potential for the manifestation of truth. But in words, and it's not that words can't also convey truth, but words are just in general, just practically speaking, in terms of how they're mostly used in modern society, they are mostly a tool for subversion. They are mostly a tool for muddying the waters and confusing the masses and getting people to believe things that are not true, or to disbelieve things that are importantly very true. I do not believe in debate, broadly speaking. And also the very premise of debate from the very beginning, it assumes that both parties, in order for it to be coherent, in order for it to make sense for debate to be valuable, it assumes that both parties are inherently interested in the truth to begin with. What evidence is there for that? When was the last time you were in a heartened debate with someone you disagree with and you felt like they were genuinely, sincerely interested in getting to the truth, independent of their own biases? Frankly, when is the last time you were interested in that? And even when people are looking for things that are sort of partially true, people are not fundamentally guided by a search for truth in their lives. They are guided by a desire to fit narratives that sometimes incorporate fragments of truth into their incentive structure that can benefit them. If something is true, but highly inconvenient or unpopular for me to believe in my social circle, as the average person, there's 0% chance that I'm going to believe that, or at least publicly admit it. But even setting aside publicly admitting it, people's beliefs are not fundamentally linked to what is true. There's very little link there. They're fundamentally linked to what they are incentivized to believe. The human mind is extraordinarily effective at convincing itself of things that are useful for it to be convinced of, that it is incentivized to believe, setting aside completely what may or may not be true. Once you understand the degree to which people fundamentally, and I don't just mean most people, I mean the fundament of human nature is not particularly truth-seeking, at least in the modern world. When you understand that, how can you look me in the eyes and say with a straight face that debate is a positive thing, that there's virtue in open discussion? What is the point of discussion if we know that people are generally not interested in the truth to begin with? In that scenario, the only use of discussion or of debate is to advance the narratives that are beneficial to my side. And likewise for the other team, they want to advance the narratives that are beneficial to their side. Why should you expect them to do any differently? Why should you ever expect your enemies to deal honestly with you when they will pay a price for having to face the truth, if they ever actually did? No one wants to pay a price. No one is going to face the truth if it comes at a cost to them. They're not even willing to do it, even if it's just at a emotional cost of having to admit oneself as being wrong, but certainly not if it comes at a social cost. America is now neatly, well, not neatly, but in a very fundamental way, in a very serious way, divided into tribes. And when discussions take place, things that people are willing to say or believe are first and foremost going to be in line with what it is acceptable for their tribe to believe, or what. And this is another reason why it is so concerning that testosterone levels are declining in men, because women and men who have low testosterone, and again, this has been measured with studies. If you don't believe me, I encourage you to look up the statistics. But women and men with low testosterone are significantly less truth-seeking and much more willing to pursue whatever narrative is aligned with their team at the expense of truth. In other words, when a woman is examining a new piece of information or a new way of looking at things, fundamentally, and of course there are exceptions, but in a fundamental and general sense, she is not fundamentally thinking about, is this true? And if it's true, I'll believe it. Instead, she's thinking, is it okay by the standards of my tribe for me to think this? In other words, if I'm a liberal woman and I am in liberal circles, upper middle class, what have you, my friends listen to NPR, they read the New York Times or what have you, I'm not thinking about, is this information true, first and foremost. That may play a minor role for limited details, but I'm thinking first and foremost, does this information align with my tribe? And I want to be clear here. All of what I'm saying is not even a criticism of people who do that. I am not even saying that that's bad. I don't think it is bad. I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't do that. I'm not suggesting that anyone should or shouldn't do anything. I am observing that this is how the human mind operates, and this is how Western culture operates. It is fundamentally not truth-seeking. It is fundamentally hyper-feminized. It is fundamentally, for both men and women, interested in one's own personal gain and what is socially acceptable and what is capable of advancing the individual in the social ladder rather than being truth-seeking. So with all that being understood, how can you think debate is a positive thing? The whole thing, debate and democracy, and I could talk about democracy for a whole other long period of time, but I mean, debate and democracy are sort of fundamentally intertwined in that they rely on many of the same false axioms that Western liberals have accepted as true, like this idea that people are interested in truth. I do not believe in debate. I don't think debate is healthy. I don't think debate is positive. I don't think there's anything inherently good about it. I think in very limited situations it can be applicable or useful for certain things. I think that those limits are very confined and its uses are few. Broadly speaking, I think debate and discussion as they are implemented today in Western society are mostly a tool for degrading the human spirit and for creating learned helplessness, because people have been trained to pour their efforts and their thought and energy into discussion and debate instead of action. And as a result of that, there is a culture of inaction and impotence and decay. And that's the world we live in.